I exposed my cheating wife, and my revenge made her cry and beg while I held our newborn baby. Hey Reddit. Holding my newborn son in my arms, I felt like I had finally found my purpose. I had spent months preparing for fatherhood, supporting my wife through her pregnancy, making sacrifices, and dreaming about the family we would build together. But all of that came crashing down when I found out she had been cheating on me, while I was working overtime to provide for her and our baby. The woman I had promised to love and protect had been sneaking around behind my back, laughing at my trust, and making me look like a fool. It started with little things, her being glued to her phone, turning the screen away whenever I walked into the room, giggling at messages late at night. At first, I told myself she was just chatting with friends, maybe other new moms. I wanted to believe she was just decompressing from the stress of motherhood. But then, she started making excuses to leave the house, even though she was barely sleeping and constantly exhausted from taking care of our baby. She'd dress up more than usual, spend extra time doing her hair, and always seemed to be in a hurry. My gut told me something was wrong, but I shoved the thought away. I refused to be the paranoid husband. Then, one night, when she had fallen asleep, her phone lit up with a notification. I wasn't the kind of guy to go through her messages, but something about the name on the screen made my blood run cold. It was from a guy I had never heard of, one she had never mentioned. The message was short but enough to send my heart racing. Miss you already. Can't wait to see you again. I felt sick. My hand shook as I picked up her phone. My mind screamed at me to stop, that maybe it wasn't what I thought, but my gut told me I needed to know the truth. So, I unlocked it. And what I found? It shattered me. There were dozens of messages. Photos. Videos. Conversations where they laughed about how clueless I was. She had been seeing him for months, even while she was pregnant. There was even a message about how she wasn't sure if the baby was mine or his. My entire body went numb. I couldn't breathe. The woman I had dedicated my life to, the woman who had given birth to what I thought was our child, had been playing me all along. I wanted to wake her up right then and there, scream at her, demand answers, but I forced myself to think. I needed a plan. Exploding in rage wouldn't do me any good, I needed to make sure I had the upper hand. I needed revenge. The next morning, I acted completely normal. I kissed her on the forehead before heading to work. I even told her I'd pick up dinner on the way home. But in reality, I spent the day meeting with a lawyer, gathering evidence, and setting things in motion. If there was even a slight chance that the baby wasn't mine, I needed to know. I scheduled a paternity test. Over the next few days, I continued pretending, even as my heart was breaking every time I looked at her. I took care of our baby, rocked him to sleep, changed diapers, and did everything a father should do. But my mind was racing with thoughts of betrayal and how I was going to destroy the woman who had torn my life apart. Finally, I got the results back. The baby was mine. That was the only thing that kept me from losing my mind completely. But it also made me even more furious. How could she do this? How could she risk our family for some cheap fling? That night, I set my plan into motion. I told her I had a surprise for her, a special date night since we hadn't had time together since the baby was born. She looked so happy, so unsuspecting. She had no idea that her entire world was about to come crashing down. I set up a nice dinner at home. Candles. Her favorite meal. I even played the song we danced to at our wedding. She was glowing, thinking I was the same loving husband she had deceived for months. Halfway through dinner, I excused myself and grabbed my laptop. I placed it on the table and pressed play. It was a compilation of all her messages, her photos, the videos she had sent him. Every disgusting lie, every betrayal, displayed right in front of her. Her face turned pale. She covered her mouth as tears welled in her eyes. I said nothing. I just watched her squirm, let her process what was happening. Then, finally, I spoke. I know everything. I've known for weeks. And now, you're going to face the consequences. She broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she begged, sobbing uncontrollably. She tried to reach for my hands, but I pulled away. I love you. I made a mistake. Please, please don't do this, she choked out. I shook my head. A mistake? A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash. What you did was a choice. Every single time you texted him, met up with him, lied to me, you chose to do that. And now, you're going to deal with the fallout. She fell to her knees, sobbing, saying she'd do anything, that she didn't want to lose me. But I wasn't done. I went into the nursery and picked up our baby. Holding him in my arms, I walked back to the dining room. You don't deserve this family, I said coldly. You don't deserve him. Her cries turned into wails. She begged me not to take our son away, but I had already spoken to my lawyer. I had every piece of evidence I needed for full custody. And I was prepared to use it. I told her to pack her things and leave. Tonight. She screamed, pleaded, but I stayed firm. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. She had already taken so much from me, I wasn't going to let her take anything more. By the end of the night, she was gone. I stood in the doorway, holding my son as she dragged her suitcase down the street. The woman I had once loved was now just a ghost in my past. But this wasn't the end. Oh no, this was just the beginning. Because what happened next? It turned everything into an even bigger nightmare. Update. The night my wife walked out, I thought that would be the end of it. I thought I had taken control, exposed her, and removed her from my life for good. But I underestimated just how desperate and manipulative she could be. For the first few days, I felt an eerie sense of peace. The house was quieter, calmer. No more tension, no more fake smiles from her. Just me and my son. I was adjusting to being a single father, and despite the pain, I was determined to move forward. But then, the messages started. At first, they were just pathetic apologies. Long paragraphs about how sorry she was, how she made the biggest mistake of her life, how she wanted to fix things. I ignored them. She had her chance, and she threw it away. But when I refused to respond, the messages turned into something else entirely. She started blaming me. Accusing me of being the reason she cheated. Saying I worked too much, that I wasn't emotionally available, that I pushed her into another man's arms. It was disgusting. She was rewriting history, trying to make herself the victim. Then, the call started. She left sobbing voicemails, begging to see our son. I wasn't going to deprive him of his mother, but I also wasn't going to let her manipulate me into giving her control again. I told her she could visit, but it would be on my terms. Supervised visits at my parents' house. That way, she wouldn't try to pull anything. She agreed, but the moment she walked in, I could tell something was off. She wasn't just there to see our son, she was trying to worm her way back into my life. She kept saying things like we should try counseling, that we owed it to our family to work through this. I shut her down immediately. There was no coming back from what she did. When she realized I wasn't budging, the real drama began. She accused me of turning our son against her, of keeping him from her. She started saying she would fight for custody, that I had no right to keep her away from her baby. The audacity of this woman. She had risked destroying our family for some cheap fling, and now she wanted to act like she was the devoted mother? I told her straight up, I had all the proof I needed to make sure she never got full custody. That shut her up for the moment, but I knew she wasn't done. Then came the biggest shock of all. One of my close friends reached out to tell me that her affair partner had no idea she was married with a child. Apparently, she had been lying to him too. She told him she was in the middle of a divorce, that she was stuck in a loveless marriage with an absent husband who didn't care about her. When he found out the truth, he dumped her immediately. She lost everything, me, her affair partner, the life she thought she was going to have. And that's when she truly spiraled. Another update. The more I ignored her, the worse she got. She started showing up at my house, banging on the door, crying about how she had nothing left. She was a mess, her hair disheveled, eyes red from crying. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me with her tears. I refused to let her in. That's when she lost it. She screamed that I ruined her life, that she had no one now because of me. As if she hadn't done this to herself. But then, she pulled the most despicable move yet. She filed for emergency custody, claiming that I was an unfit father. She accused me of neglect, said I was emotionally unstable, that I was keeping our son from her out of spite. I was furious. I had been the one taking care of our child while she was out sneaking around, and now she wanted to paint me as the bad guy? I immediately got my lawyer involved. Luckily, I had everything documented, her infidelity, her messages, the fact that she willingly left the house and didn't try to fight for custody until she realized she had nothing left. The judge saw right through her lies. But the court battle wasn't even the worst part. The most shocking moment came when I found out the real reason she was so desperate to get custody. She wasn't fighting because she missed our son. She was doing it because her parents had cut her off financially, and she needed child support. That's right, she wasn't trying to be a mother. She was trying to secure a paycheck. The moment I realized that, any lingering pity I had for her vanished. Still, she kept pushing. She tried everything to paint herself as the devoted mother who just wanted her family back. She even went on social media, making dramatic posts about how she was being kept from her child, how she was fighting for her baby. Of course, she left out the part where she cheated, abandoned her family, and only cared about custody when her money dried up. But people started reaching out to me, asking what was really going on. I debated staying silent, but I had had enough of her lies. So, I laid everything out. Screenshots of her texts, proof of her affair, proof that she left willingly. She was humiliated. People turned on her instantly. The friends who had initially been sympathetic realized what kind of person she really was. She tried to play the victim, but no one was buying it anymore. She was alone. And for the first time, I think it truly hit her, she had destroyed her own life. Final update. After months of legal battles, emotional manipulation, and her desperate attempts to claw her way back into my life, the final verdict came in. I was granted full custody. She would only get supervised visitation, and even that was dependent on her proving she could be a stable parent. The moment the judge announced the decision, I saw the last bit of fight drain from her. She had lost. And she knew it. She tried one last time to appeal to me after the hearing. She cornered me outside the courthouse, tears in her eyes, telling me she needed us to be a family again. That she had changed. That she realized what she had lost. I looked her dead in the eyes and told her she was never going to manipulate me again. That I had finally seen her for who she truly was. And that I would never, ever take her back. She broke down sobbing, right there on the courthouse steps. But I didn't feel pity anymore. I felt nothing. She had been given every chance to do the right thing, and she threw it all away. Now, she had to live with the consequences. I walked away, my son in my arms, knowing that we were finally free. This whole experience had been hell, but in the end, I had won. I had protected my child, secured our future, and exposed her for the person she truly was. And as I stood there, looking at my son, my beautiful, innocent son, I promised him that I would never let anyone hurt us like that again. We were going to be okay. Better than okay. We were going to build a new life, just the two of us. And as for my ex-wife? She was nothing more than a cautionary tale now. A reminder of why you should never take loyalty for granted.